I saw people from going completely horizontal, hitting the ceiling and landing back down in like really awkward positions.
It was quite scary. The plane just seemed to go stop, which it didn't, but then dropped.
I have seen a few people, they were like literally flying in the plane because it was so pressure in the plane.
Incident after incident. The year 2024 has seen Boeing aircraft jolted by turbulence. What is turbulence, and is it becoming more common now? What happens if you don't buckle up? From big planes to small ones, and even helicopters, we look at how safe our skies really are. Emergency vehicles raced onto the tarmac in Thailand. The capital's main airport was a scene of utter chaos after Singapore-bound flight SQ321 made an emergency landing in Bangkok. Soon, injured passengers of this Boeing aircraft were taken to different hospitals. More than 20 people suffered spinal injuries. A 2-year-old child was among the hospitalized people. Here's what happened. A Singapore Airlines Boeing 777-300ER took off from London's Heathrow Airport on the night of the 20th of May. 10 hours into the flight, it was caught in certain turbulence over the Irrawaddy Basin in Myanmar. The flight from London to Singapore fell into an air pocket while the cabin crew was serving breakfast. Prompting the pilots to request an emergency landing. The pilot declared a medical emergency and diverted the aircraft to Bangkok. Large gashes in the overhead cabin panels, gas masks and panels hanging from the ceiling, and items of hand baggage strewn around. One passenger died of a suspected heart attack and over 100 were injured. According to Flight Radar 24, the data showed a drop in height. The official said, "Our initial thinking is the turbulence event is before the standard descent from 37,000 to 31,000 feet. That appears to be just a flight level change in preparation for landing, a massive 6,000 feet drop." Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok said the plane requested an emergency landing at 3:35 p.m. local time and landed at 3:51 p.m., where the uninjured passengers disembarked to board another aircraft.
Sheer terror and such shock. You know, you think, what's happening? Then it was shuddering, the whole plane was shuddering. And you think it's going to land on land, in the water, is it going to crack up? Because, great pieces were falling off and dropping on the floor, people getting hit in the head. One lady was laying on the floor, and when they tried to get her up, when the medics come on, she was screaming. It was awful, all of that, and when the head, of course, the head's damaged, there's blood everywhere. And then when I walked off the plane, got us off the plane, There were a few of the staff who'd been injured, and there was broken crockery. Their faces were really covered in blood. It was awful.
Obviously, just relieved at this point because it was a very, very obviously a traumatic experience. It's hard to really describe in words. No one expects that, really.
No information from a single word at all. Not a single word.
And you need to sort things out pretty quickly.
I need to know, am I going through my insurance? I've got no idea. I'm totally in limbo. My wife's in ICU. She's in ICU, needs a medevac.
I'm in a lot of pain, and it was quite scary, but yeah, I don't think I'll be flying again for a while. I got a chipped tooth and some hurt to my neck, but everything was fine until I arrived back in the airport, and then I started feeling really sick, vomiting. Couldn't stop vomiting, couldn't walk, and yeah, it was pretty bad.
There was an immediate kind of disbelief at first, and then the plane felt very level, and it was obvious the gentleman needed some help. So I got up and helped some other passengers get him out of his seat, and we laid him on the floor near the bulkhead so that the medics on the aeroplane, there were some passengers who thankfully were medics, could administer CPR to the gentleman on the aeroplane. They gave CPR for I think about 20 minutes or so, and my heart goes out to the wife of the man who lost his life. I spent a little bit of time talking to her and held her hand briefly. She was badly injured, and she was naturally badly shocked as well.
So what is turbulence? Turbulence is unstable air movement caused by changes in wind speed and direction, such as jet streams, thunderstorms, and cold or warm weather fronts. It can range in severity, causing minor to dramatic changes in altitude and airspeed. There are 4 classifications for turbulence: light, moderate, severe, and extreme. In cases of extreme turbulence, pilots can lose control of the airplane, and there can even be structural damage to the aircraft. According to a 2021 study by the US National Transportation Safety Board, turbulence-related incidents are common. From 2009 to 2018, it found that turbulence accounted for more than a third of reported events, and most resulted in 1 or more serious injuries, but no aircraft damage. Yet fatal turbulence in air travel remains extremely rare. The last fatal turbulence-related accident on Cirium's database involved a Boeing 747 in 1997. It was a United Airlines flight from Tokyo to Honolulu that experienced severe turbulence over the Pacific Ocean. Reportedly, a passenger who was not wearing a seatbelt flew up from her seat, striking her head on the luggage bin. Airplanes are designed to withstand rough conditions, and it's rare for an aircraft to incur structural damage because of turbulence. But turbulence can toss passengers and crew members around, potentially causing grave injuries. Multiple experts emphasize that staying seated and keeping your seatbelt on as much as possible during flights were the best ways to reduce risks.
Keep your seatbelt on when you can. That's a major safety. I think everyone knows that. Pilots tell that to people, but people still are lackadaisical in doing that. So I think that's key.
Meteorologists rely on a variety of different algorithms, satellites, and radar systems to produce detailed aviation forecasts. for conditions such as cold air, wind speed, thunderstorm and turbulence. They flag where the turbulence might happen. Using these forecasts in addition to guidance from air traffic controllers, pilots attempt to skirt turbulent areas by adjusting their altitude to find the smoothest ride. Turbulence also presents a greater threat to small planes that are more susceptible to changes in wind speed, rather than larger commercial airliners. A spate of turbulence reports has triggered a debate over whether climate change may be causing frequent turbulence. As the world continues to burn fossil fuels, global temperatures are rising. And turbulence is just another natural phenomenon that's affected by that warming. While pinpointing the exact relationship between climate change and any given turbulent flight is impossible, a series of studies published over the past decade suggest that climate change stands to make turbulence worse. Last year, a study in Geophysical Research Letters used 21 different turbulence calculations to determine whether turbulence got worse between 1979 and 2020. The researchers found clear evidence of large clear air turbulence increases in certain parts of the world.
Turbulence is becoming more prevalent as climate changes, and a university's research in the United Kingdom has shown that over the last 40 years, severe turbulence has increased by 55%, moderate turbulence by 37%, and slight turbulence or light turbulence by about 17%. So as the weather changes, certainly it is getting more turbulent. At the same time, over the last 20 years in particular, aircraft are fitted with far more sophisticated radar called multi-scan, which, as I mentioned, gives a really good picture of what the weather is like ahead. They're also making progress into turbulence detection as well. And also airlines are now sharing data between aircraft of encounters with turbulence, so everybody can be advised that's on that same flight track.
Just 5 days after the Singapore Airlines incident, a Qatar Airways plane was hit by turbulence during its flight from Doha to Dublin. Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner experienced instability while airborne over Turkey. A post by Dublin Airport on X confirmed that 6 passengers and 6 crew members were injured after the aircraft experienced turbulence while it was flying over Turkey on the 26th of May. Passengers described the incident as frightening. They said the plane seemed to drop out of the air during food and drink service. Reportedly, flight attendants were also affected by the sudden turbulence, but they continued to assist passengers.
Unfortunately, there was a couple of passengers that didn't have seatbelts on, so they were thrown in front of us. They were thrown out of their seats and hit their head. The food trolley was coming down the aisle and he was just past our seat, bending down, asking us what we wanted for lunch, when that went up in the air and then toppled over. So there was food coming out of all of the little trays there all over the floor. Food with people that were already eating. Their food had got thrown up into the ceiling on the plane, all over the floor. Quite a mess left after that.
It was for the 10 or 15 seconds, and that was the worst 15 seconds of my life. But by the God, we are safe. The food was everywhere on the plane because it was a taxi time, and I have seen few people. They were literally flying in the plane because it was so pressure in the plane, and they were standing, so they were on the top of the plane. But luckily, there was a lady injured in the plane, and they were just continuously giving them treatment. So the staff was very, very generous. Even the staff was hurt, but still they were taking care of us. So that was even though we were in panic, but the staff was very, very good. That was the good part, yeah.
The incident has raised questions about the predictability and management of turbulence during flights. While modern aircraft are designed to handle severe turbulence, the experience can still be frightening for those on board. Qatar Airways has assured passengers that a thorough investigation will be conducted to understand the causes of the turbulence and to prevent similar incidents in the future. On the 26th of May, a Leh-bound SpiceJet aircraft operating as SG-123 from New Delhi to Leh had to return to New Delhi due to a bird strike. The Boeing 737 plane landed back safely, with passengers deplaning normally. This comes just days after an Emirates flight landed in Mumbai after colliding with a flock of flamingos shortly before touchdown. The incident damaged the plane and left 39 flamingos dead. The Boeing 777 flying from Dubai to Mumbai hit the flock about 300 meters from the ground. In April this year, a Southwest Airlines flight encountered severe turbulence and had to make an emergency landing in Tampa, Florida. Southwest Flight 4273 was traveling from New Orleans to Orlando when the captain declared an emergency after experiencing turbulence aboard the Boeing 737 jet. Reportedly, 2 people, a passenger and a flight attendant, were injured. Not just this year, back in 2018 too, a Southwest flight caused a scare on board. Southwest Flight 1380 was above southeastern Pennsylvania about 20 minutes into its journey when it happened. The plane's left engine exploded after one of its fan blades broke off. A gust of shrapnel blew out a window, partly sucking one passenger into the sky. Oxygen masks dropped down and the plane plunged thousands of feet in a minute. With a deafening roar, Flight 1380 became a mid-air scene of chaos for the 144 passengers and 5 crew members on board. In another horrific incident on the 5th of January this year, the door plug of a commercial Boeing 737 MAX 9 came off as the plane was climbing. Alarming passengers on board and raising questions about flight safety. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, said that 4 bolts that hold the door plug in place on the Boeing 737 MAX 9 were missing at the time of the blowout on Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. Boeing too acknowledged its responsibility for the blowout in a statement issued after the NTSB report, and said it would work to make sure such incidents do not recur. The January 5th incident triggered a 19-day emergency grounding of all MAX 9s and reignited scrutiny of Boeing following the fatal MAX 8 crashes of 2018 and 2019. Such frequent mishaps have put the spotlight on the overall air travel industry too. While largely safe, the industry has been the subject of recent reports of outdated technology, staffing issues leading to air traffic control shortages, and communication failures contributing to planes nearly colliding. Turbulence remains a common part of flying that many people experience each day. Here are some tips that one can follow when the plane hits turbulence. Buckle up. While it's important to fasten the seatbelt when the seatbelt sign is on, it's also important to keep it fastened during periods of turbulence. Store luggage properly. Put away any loose belongings in the overhead compartment or under the seat to prevent them from becoming projectiles during turbulence. Select the correct seat. Seats further forward or over the wings experience the sensation of turbulence less. Seats closer to the front of the plane are ahead of its center of gravity, and those over the wings benefit from their stabilizing effect. Breathe slowly. Turbulence can trigger anxiety. Practice slow, deep breaths. Focus on inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Follow crew. Flight attendants are trained to handle turbulence. Pay attention to their instructions and follow them promptly.
Go back 50 years, 60 years to the 1950s and 1960s, when radar either was not invented, weather radar was not available, or it was very rudimentary, very rudimentary. Hundreds of passengers lost their lives every year in turbulence-related tragedies where aeroplanes went into the middle of a thunderstorm and got torn to pieces. The aeroplanes just were torn to pieces by the thunderstorm. Now, fast forward to the last 20 years, there's only been 3 fatalities, including the one yesterday, involving turbulence and aircraft. So the industry's made extraordinary strides through technology, weather radar, sophisticated weather radar, and all sorts of other preventative strategies.
While it's unlikely that flights during turbulence will result in injury or damage, there have been several recent incidents that prove otherwise. The spotlight is on the critical issue of safety in the world of aviation. And in this very world, the larger question still looms. Are our flights safe?